I'm watching a 14-year-old child carrying my dream setup into his own room. And I myself was helping him doing it. $20,000 was my dream setup worth, and he paid me almost nothing. And you think that the problem is that you don't know what you want from life, but that's not true, because I myself knew exactly what I wanted from life. I was saving up over years, building up my dream setup piece by piece, and then I sold it to a child because I needed money for rent. And when I sold the setup, I couldn't walk back into that room for over 2 months. 2026, and it's more common than ever to feeling lost. And I've lived over 13 years being lost, and here is where it actually started. And this video is about feeling lost. And that type of lost, not where you're sad or something, it's that type of lost when just life is happening to you and you're standing in a room, everything happens around you, but you're just outside, you're just there and life happens. I mean, that type of lost. If you ever felt like that type of lost in your life, words can even describe the feeling that you had back then. And I felt it when I wanted to walk through a doorway, but I couldn't walk physically through that doorway anymore because I was so lost back then. And the thing that nobody tells you is that the question isn't how do I find direction? The real question is, why does lost show up when you give up something that's meaningful to you? That is here the real question. Because mine showed up in a room, in a setup I was building brick by myself, and I wanted to show you why. So I want you to put into that room, into the exact room, into my setup that I have back then, because I lived there before I sold it. So I was saving up for over 3 years to build that same exact streaming setup I had back then. And this wasn't only gear for me back then, this was proof that I was becoming that person who I dreamed of, because I bought everything, $20,000 worth of gear sitting in a corner of my apartment that's only designed for that dream. And then at that time I didn't have the job back then, and the rent was due. So the only logical thing I did was to put it online. And 1 week later, a child messaged me. And he was around about 14, 15 when he messaged me, and he offered me way less than my whole setup was worth. And I said yes, and not because I wanted to sell my setup, because when you're that far behind on rent, everything, every penny is worth as a rescue, even if it's less money than the setup was worth. Because I needed money fast, I needed money now, not later when somebody properly gave me a good quote for that setup. I needed money to pay my rent. And I remember this day, I was driving my setup to his house, helping him carrying everything out of my car into his room and setting everything up. And I was kind to him. I also showed him how to set the mic up, how to set the lights up, what settings to have. I also downloaded him some games, and after a week he messaged me because he needed something, and I helped him also with that. And while I was setting up the PC and plugging every cable in, I had this feeling in my chest. And then I drove back home, went up the stairs, and when I looked inside the doorway into that room, and what I saw was an empty desk. And I even saw the rectangles of dust where my PC, my camera, my lights, my monitor were sitting. The only thing that was left inside the room was my laptop and me. There was nothing else in it. And here's the part I need you to actually sit with me. I didn't cry back then. I didn't break anything because I was angry. I just looked into the room, I stepped back, and I closed the door and I went away. And I didn't open that door for over 2 months because I know exactly what was on the opposite side of the door. On the other side there was an empty desk and my broken dream. And it told me one thing over and over again: you failed. You had your full dream sitting in front of you and you just sold it. But that's not exactly why I couldn't open the door back then. So before we continue with that video, I'm documenting my whole life on this channel. Whether I can break the bad patterns, the bad habits of me, or failing publicly. The only thing that can tell you this is the next week's video, because I'm uploading 1 video every week. For that, hit that subscribe button to see if I'm failing or if I'm sticking to my plan to build the dream life I wanted. What I'm about to show you in that video about the empty desk is not just about the streaming setup I had, it's about a thing that all people have in their lives and they never look at it the right way. That's what I'm gonna tell you in this video. So hit the subscribe button, and let's continue with that video. So here's what I exactly knew about the closed door I was avoiding over months. The thing I told myself is that I couldn't go back into that room because I failed. I lost all of my gear, I lost my dream. But it wasn't. Losing gear by having no job is just being broke. And being broke happens to people, that's normal. And the thing that I couldn't handle wasn't the empty desk, it was the question the empty desk gave me. And the question was not why did you solve it, the question was what did you do with that gear while you had it. And that's the one I couldn't answer because I had it real, I had it in front of me. I had all the gear I always told myself I needed to finally start streaming. I had it right there sitting in front of me, I could even touch it. And the lost feeling didn't came from selling the gear, it came from way underneath all of that. Because I knew even with all of that gear, I hadn't done nothing. And the gear was never a missing part of that puzzle. It was always me. When I sold the gear, I was finally relieved because I could finally say now, I have no gear, I had to solve it, so I had to stop. Because life happened, I had to pay the rent, because it's way simpler to say these things than facing the truth. The truth is, I'd rather lose all that gear, lose that dream of a circumstance rather than still having the dream and still do nothing with it. Because as long as the gear was leaving the story, I was the unlucky guy. I was the guy who couldn't make it. Because the second I admit that I had everything I needed, I froze. I had to look at the thing that was actually in the way. And that's one thing. I built all up the story to avoid one thing. So let me ask you a real honest question, but be honest with yourself. Tell me in the comments on the scale of 1 to 10, how much do you actually trust yourself with finishing something you started, even when you have everything you needed, and not to start, to finish it. Be honest with yourself and tell me that number in the comments. So I thought once I understood it, once I saw it, the weight would lift off, but it didn't. Because seeing why you closed the door doesn't open it up. And that's the part nobody warns you about. So here's what the actual empty desk, the empty room was about. And it's not about the failed dream, it was just an alibi, because selling that setup to a younger kid to tell myself I needed money for rent was just hiding me, because it was the perfect reason to never find out if I actually had the things to do it. You can't fail at the thing you no longer own. And I didn't lose my dream back then, I got rid of the evidences of my setup. Because as long as the gear was gone, the only thing that I believed is the only thing that was standing between my dream and the person who I am right now. It's that dream setup I no longer have. But it was never the gear. And the empty desk didn't took my potential with it. I protected my potential, I froze it mid-time. So if you're sitting there and still feeling lost, I'm gonna hand you a routine now. The question was never how do you find the direction. The real question is, what is the lost feeling letting you avoid to find out about yourself? Because it's protecting something. And for me, it protected a guy who was full of potential as long as he never kept up that gear. So this feeling of being lost felt like I misplaced my life, but I wasn't. I was just hiding it. So if this just moved something inside you or gave you some inspiration to do something about this feeling, then hit that like button, because then I know that you liked this video and I could make more of that types of videos. And to watch my recent video, you can check out this video up, and YouTube and I think that this video is the best suited for you, so you should definitely watch this as the next video. And as for that, thank you for watching guys, and I'm rooting for you.